let's try and save a little bit of time. Lisa is a teacher, and she's, I believe, in the Swartz Creek system. She served on the Board of Education for a term and then lost re-election. Jim Bappert is a current city council person. He's done so for 22 years, member since 1992, somewhere around 22 years. And let's do that and move on from there.
My name is Jason Poyer. I'm born and raised in Grand Blanc, and I thought about how I want to talk to you guys and tell you more about me, so you know more about me personally. So I'm going to start with where I live. I grew up in Grand Blanc. My family's here, and I appreciate that. My wife and I have 3 kids. We chose to live in Grand Blanc because of the school and the community. We chose to stay in Grand Blanc because it's the kind of community that we come together and we walk in the park, we play in the parks, we drive on the street, we shop at the businesses, and I apologize, I'm nervous. We shop at the businesses, we bike on the paths, walk down the streets. We live and breathe what we want from a city that we live in. We have so many great things here in the city. The state of Michigan has now placed us in 6th place as the 6th best city to live in the state of Michigan. I think that's wonderful. But one of the things we have to pay attention to is that we didn't get there just by chance. We got there through a lot of good decisions that were made by a council and by the city over the years, by a community that cares, a community that gets involved, and a community that is heard when they speak. One of the reasons I'm standing in front of you today is because I feel like there's a little bit of an issue with speaking and not being heard. And I appreciate the council. I appreciate everything I've seen them do over the past number of meetings that I've been attending, the Planning Commission, the City Council. There's a lot of work. There's a lot of decisions to be made. I'm no stranger to this. I've been in the IT industry for 25 years. I've worked at Ford, John Deere, and many, many other companies where we've had to make a lot of decisions. Something called, there's an RFP process, there's a pursuit process. I work on projects, project management. I'm very in tune with things coming in from multiple parties with multiple opinions on how things need to be done, and working to mitigate with those 2 parties the best strategy that works for both parties. That's what I do today. I work in the sales department at HP, and we try to meet the needs of every single client. It's no different here in the city. We, as the citizens, are the clients. We have to tell the city council, those 6 men and women that drive our city, what we want. We have to be present when they make those decisions, and we have to make sure that they understand what we want. So my job is to make sure that sitting on City Council, I'm here to listen to you and to bring those decisions to bear based on what actions I take. So, thank you.
Hi, my name's Paula Nass, and I was raised in Indian Hill. My parents still live there. Some of you might know Ann and Paul Dewey. My husband and I now live in Kirkridge. We have 2 grown children, or almost grown. One is 21 and the other is 16. I'm a professor at University of Michigan Flint, where I've been for 20 years. I also graduated from U of M Flint. And I also hold a law degree and a master's degree in economics. The other thing I do at U of M Flint is I'm in charge of the Center for Economic Education. I work with a lot of teachers. I work with Mrs. Burgess. I plan events for the school kids to come down to school, and I go into schools and basically brainwash them about economics at a very young age. So some of your kids may have had some contact with me. A lot like Jason, I became interested in this process because I feel like there's this gap between what's being done and what you want to see done. So I have, the typical agenda of, we want a strong police department, community services, I'm fiscally responsible. Those are issues that I think we all stand for. But I think what Jason and I saw over the summer was that there were a lot of issues that you felt you weren't involved in. And it's not that City Council isn't trying to get people involved, it's that people are getting involved too late in the process. So one of the things I want to do, and I know this isn't supposed to be a political speech, but what I really want to do is get you involved early. And I was happy when I was at the council meeting this week to know that, the efforts, especially that the Indian Hill people made, Alan and Jason and the rest of you, they've been productive because the City Council has listened. They've proposed town hall meetings and more participation by the citizens. So I hope to keep that going. And if you ever want to call me, I'm happy to answer questions, and I have some other ideas about what we can do to make the vision for our city the one that's a shared vision that we can all accomplish for the future. So I appreciate your being here. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Chris Douglas, and I was going to thank Alan for putting this event together, although I The pastor beat me to the punch, I believe. I'd also like to thank the audience for coming out on a Monday night to listen to us, and thank you to Faith Lutheran Church for using the gymnasium. So a little bit about myself. I've been an economics professor at U of M Flint. I've been there since the fall of 2007. But I got my PhD in economics from Michigan State, and my attorney advised me to plead the fifth about who I'm rooting for this Saturday. But I realized to raise my hand for Michigan State, so sorry, Alan, I blew that question. I'll try to do better next time. Why am I running for city council? Simply put, Grand Blanc's a great place to live. I recently got tenure at the University of Michigan Flint, and once you get tenure, the university can't get rid of you. So I'm like, well, this is a great time to buy a house, even in this housing market. I'll be sticking around for a while. And probably much like you, I could have bought a house anywhere, but I chose to live in the city of Grand Blanc. Why did I pick the city of Grand Blanc? Quality of life. Low crime, which we're sensitive to in Genesee County, excellent public services, the people are very friendly. I bought my house in Riverbend West, and my neighbors were very welcoming to me. We do have excellent public services in Grand Blanc, but from an economics point of view, the thing that I'm concerned about is we're in this era of declining tax revenue from the state support to local communities is declining, local tax dollars are stretched thin, and we really need to prioritize those tax dollars to things that increase our quality of life and increase our property values. And to echo Jason and Paula's point, we also need a city council that's responsive to residents, that's open to resident suggestions, that includes the residents in the decisions. The city council needs to be thoughtful and take the time to make the right decision, because Grand Blanc is an excellent place to live, and the city council needs to make sure it remains so. Thanks.
My name is Larry Bertram. I'm a lifelong resident of Genesee County, except for the time I was away at school and in the Army. I live in Kirkbeach Hills on Charing Cross, and my wife and I have been married 46 years. We have 3 grown children and 1 exceptional granddaughter. I am not a professor of economics at the University of Michigan, which their credentials are very impressive. I spent my whole life in business, making those decisions on a daily basis from a common sense standpoint. And I think when I was approached after Labor Day about running for this, I'd never run for public office. I've held some other offices and organizations and homeowners associations and things of that nature. But as they told me things about the inner workings of the city, I was shocked to discover some of the just poor financial decisions that are being made on a daily basis. They're all hearsay, but I come to believe that I've been told by a lot of people what's going on. And I think we need somebody that's got the experience of the day-to-day, everyday in business experience, making a payroll, signing the front of a paycheck, not the back of a paycheck. Working hard every day. I work hard. That's why I dress a little more casual. I was making deliveries this morning at 7 o'clock this morning because people wanted their coat from the store. It was cold. And that's the kind of work you'll get from me. I'm honest. I'm hardworking. I'm a people person. And I promise if I'm elected, I will do you a fine job. Thank you.
Question to Paula Nass and Lisa Kunkelman. Not counting officials like the mayor or the clerk, there aren't any female city council people. Is this a position that should be gender neutral? Or is there something different that you bring to the table solely because you're a female?
I don't really think it's a matter of me being a female maybe, but I think I have experience working with families and their constraints. You know, I know that we want more involvement with the meetings and what's going on in terms of decisions, but I also know as a mother, you know, I've talked to other mothers this week who said, I'd love to go to city council meetings, but guess what? I'm cooking dinner for my family at 6 o'clock at night or 7 o'clock at night. I'm taking them to soccer. We have all kinds of things to do. How are we going to make a city council meeting? And that doesn't just apply to people with young kids, that applies to all different age groups. So I think as a female, I maybe tend to be more sympathetic to the needs of different age groups, very young people, and you know, with my parents, you know, being slightly older, I also can sympathize with their constraints. But as a mother, and not necessarily because, you know, I'm a female, but just because I'm a mother who has experienced the constraints of having a family, and also knows what families are looking for in this community, I think maybe I can bring a different voice to the table.
To Larry and Chris, driving around town, everybody knows that you can't look somewhere without seeing a campaign sign from Chris Douglas and another one from Larry Bertram. They're the same size, the same makeup, and they're usually a few feet apart. So it's on you guys, one or both of you. How'd that happen?
One of the city council members who recruited me was able to secure some very good business locations, and I had some business locations. We had talked with Chris. We agreed with quite a bit of his thinking. He seemed to be on the same track as us. So we cooperated in putting up the signs, and all of us went out the night before, the night that within the 30 days that the city allows, supposedly, which turns out now to be 90 days. In fact, the city of Grand Blanc is the only city around the area that doesn't have a sign ordinance about that. They have a sign ordinance about everything else, but so it resets to the state. The state sets 90 days. And I like Chris. He and I talked, and although we're not a team as such to be elected one for the other, I think we're on the same frame. And if Chris is elected, whether I make it or not, I feel very comfortable with Chris there. And Chris, go ahead.
Chris, Larry left you 10 seconds.
No, I think you summarized it pretty well. It is kind of weird seeing your name around town, Bella.
Jason, I coupled you with Jim because, believe it or not, you're both employed by Hewlett-Packard. Now, the question's a little bit deeper than that. Is it a problem having two city council members from the same employer? And is there some Hewlett-Packard standard operating procedure or business method that you think will be particularly helpful on city council?
First part is, before I even decided to run or made the official request of my wife to see if she would allow me to run, once we made the family decision, I called my boss to find out, first of all, what is HP's rules around political positions or city positions, and I found out that it really, as long as it doesn't get in the way of the job. So the first thing was that Jim and I have different positions. There's 340,000 people in HP, so you're bound to run into that once in a while, but completely different positions. And from my perspective, what HP brings, the breadth and depth of the businesses that we can offer to the companies of the world, allow me such a broad scope that I've never had in the other positions. I've been doing this for 25 years. For the last 3 years I've been back at HP. The amount of things that I have at my disposal, the amount of I've sat with lawyers for the past 50 hours on the phone all through the entire weekend. My family never saw me. I get to take those experiences and bring them to City Council, looking through legal documents that the council was asked to approve to allow the Sitco developments to go through. I've got those at my disposal, and I can talk to the resources at HP without any issues to vet my concerns and questions on as well. So it gives me a great resource to talk back with as well.
All right. Chris and Paula, and maybe Chris will speak up first on this one. You two knew this one was coming too. You had to.
Well, after the last question, yeah.
You're both profs in economics at U of M Flint. Go from there. What from that job gives you an edge over the other candidates?
Well, I think a major focus of economics is just thinking about how if you have a limited set of resources, how do you allocate those resources? What are the trade-offs involved? What are the results of the decisions you make? And I think that's really what City Council does. You have a fixed set of resources coming in every year, and actually that fixed set has been decreasing over time as the state has cut back on revenue sharing. Property values have decreased because property tax revenues are a major source of income for the city. So you really have to be careful about thinking if you allocate resources in one particular area, what are you taking away from other areas? What are the consequences of the decisions you make in terms of resident quality of life, people's property values? So I think that an economics background really fits well with what the City Council does.
Well, just to add to that, I also have a law degree, so I like to combine my economics knowledge with analyzing things as they apply to the legal system and how they affect parties from a broader perspective than just the economic perspective. But I think it's a good combination.
From a mother's view of the surroundings for their children and what to expect for them to see when they go to town, with the progress in town, does it fit with your family thinking?
I would like to see more events in town. Now we have teenage kids and post-teenage kids. It would be nice to have more things going on where, they can walk to downtown and more concerts in the park and, more restaurants to go to. I think that would be nice. Traffic is an issue. I don't know what we can do with that. But, one thing I have been saying is there's been this tendency to think that the city council is not pro-business in the past. And now I think in some ways some people have gone in the other direction, where they're so anxious to bring in business that we aren't careful to think it through and say how will this affect the business owners and how will it affect the citizens and the families. So I think we need to step back a little bit and say, these are the costs of doing that and these are the benefits of doing that, and approach it from the perspective of people of all ages.
Raise your hand if you have gone to at least 3 city council meetings this year. Okay? Audience, your turn. How many of you have attended a Grand Blanc City Council meeting ever? Okay. How many have gone this year? Good. Not many people go to city council meetings, though. If you get there, you realize that the city council probably outnumbers the people who are there watching. Same with planning commission meetings. You don't go unless there's something on the agenda that involves you in some way. I need to know, candidates, the fact that the minutes from the city council meetings and planning commission meetings are put on the website, the fact that notice is given of the meetings, is that enough opportunity for the public to be able to follow the issues? Show of hands if you think it is. Okay. Then let's have a couple of you tell me if there's a better way for people to keep up with what's going on.
I believe that the city council should be much more open and transparent. My short time that I have been involved in this, there's a lot going on that I don't feel comfortable with. This water plan that was just...
Well, Larry, the question, though, is...
I don't think the people had a chance to even hear about it, let alone talk about it.
We're talking about, is there a better way to communicate the issues from the city council, and you have ideas of how we go about doing
They
that?
should extend the time available for the citizens to comment on these issues. They hand-delivered the envelope over the weekend to have the vote this last Wednesday for a lame-duck city council that 2 for sure are not going to be there the next meeting. Instead of and I asked the question at the meeting, I said, was there any comment on this? And the reply from the city council, from the mayor, was, yeah, we talked about it for about an hour last April. Now, I don't think that gives the people of the city of Grand Blanc, who are going to borrow, they're borrowing $1 million in their name.
Let's focus on the method. Let's focus on
I
method.
think they ought to have more time for the people who come to the city council meetings and comment. Ask a question.
I do not know all of the rules and regulations that Mr. Friel and the rest of the council follow to the letter. I do know that there are orders of rules that need to be followed when you're in a council meeting. I need to learn those. If I get elected to council, I'm going to learn those. But the bottom line is there are a lot of other communication methods that can be used. Today, if you're trying to figure out what's happening with the water program that Mr. Bertram was talking about, you can try the Grand Blanc website. It is posted there. You can read through all 46 pages. You can go to the meeting minutes that are posted. Unfortunately, I feel bad for Bethany and the back office that does do the meeting minutes and those kinds of things. That's a lot of work to get done. They get them published hours before the meeting is in place. So I do feel what Mr. Bertram is mentioning, that the council members that are voting have issues. I'm sorry, I'll get back to the point. So the current methods they have today, Grand Blanc View, the website, and/or the plans that get published when you can find them and get through them. That's not going and asking for Freedom of Information Act. That's just because they're publicly made available to us, are abysmal. So I've been doing a lot of additional work. I publish a whole bunch of information on my Facebook site that I believe should be appropriate, but I will not say today that that's the way I'll do it if elected, because I need to find out legally is it allowed. There are a lot of regulations, but that's what I would like to do, is a more open discussion, social media use.
Chris, any ideas?
Yeah, I think maybe publishing the agenda earlier before the city council meeting would be helpful. I think a lot of people feel like they kind of get the agenda the day before the vote happens, and people are just kind of like, oh, what happened? What just happened? I wasn't expecting any of this stuff. So just get the issues out there earlier. Maybe make the city website a little bit easier to use. I've heard people talk about it's kind of hard to click around. You talked about the minutes, but the last time I was at the city council website, the minutes ended sometime in August. So here's like a month or so of minutes that are missing. At least when I look, maybe I'm missing them.
Let me play devil's advocate. I chair the planning commission for the county, and a lot of times you don't know what the agenda is going to be until the last minute, so it's very hard for staff to put it together to be able to publish it. Unless you go with a very general agenda, and that really isn't going to tell anyone what's going on.
I would say do the best you can to get the issues out there ahead of time. If it's like going to be something very big, like a new development or something that's going to affect a lot of people, maybe postpone at a meeting, get the issue out there for a couple of weeks so people have time to come together to formulate their thoughts rather than kind of learning about it after the fact.
Watching what happened in Indian Hill and talking to my parents and a lot of people lately, I started to think, how can we salvage the situation? You're doing something to salvage it. You're all doing something to salvage it. Let's hope that something was gained by this. So, quickly, back when I was in college, Randy Byrne, the city manager, hired me for 2 summers to conduct community surveys. And I have them with me. They were fairly comprehensive. And I was amazed this summer when I pulled my petition to run for city council, how many of the changes had been made, how many were addressed from the results of these surveys. I would like to start that. If I make it on city council, I like to start that very quickly because I think that's helpful information. The other thing is, you already, at the last city council meeting, you passed a resolution to have town hall meetings, 3 per year. I'd like to maybe also extend that to if there's a special situation coming up, maybe it would be a good idea to have a town hall meeting. Virtual town hall meetings seem to be big. I've done some research on this. Using social media, Facebook, Twitter. And you know where I've gotten a lot of my information lately? Running into people at the grocery store. I walk my dog, I go to the grocery store, I talk to the teachers. You've got to be out in the community talking to people because let's face it, most people don't want to read the agendas, they don't want to go to the meetings, they don't have time for it in their busy lives. You asked if being a female matters in this race, it's not that, it's just sympathizing with everybody's schedules. So I think those approaches would help.
Now, back in July, the head of the Grand Blanc Chamber of Commerce was quoted in the local media as saying development is always positive. Is that true? And if it's true, is that only true for the business community?
The word always is a little strong. I'm sure there's lots of development that we would think would be not very positive in Grand Blanc. But I think development overall is a good idea. We do have a lot of vacant lots in the city that would be well filled with a business. I think also in terms of just trying to keep the tax revenue flowing into the city and the declining support of the state, you really need to develop a tax base in the downtown business district in order to have those tax dollars coming in. So I would not use the word always. There's some seedy businesses we would probably prefer not to be in the city of Grand Blanc, although they probably wouldn't locate here anyway because we're not the clientele for them. So I would say development is usually a good thing.
Development is always positive?
My answer is definitely no. It has to match the community. And there was a long article that my wife and I were talking about that was written in the journal about what makes a community, and it's the people. And just my example, as benign as I can be, I don't want a balloon shop on every corner in Grand Blanc. Just like I don't want another auto store. Although I shop at the auto stores, we've got enough auto stores in the city of Grand Blanc and on the periphery. I think the business has to match the community and their needs, and a wrong place business can decrease our values, which can decrease our home values, which drive people away, which bring our schools down. It's a chain reaction. So no, it's not always.
Any good business person, the bottom line is they want to make a profit. That's what they're in business for. And they're going to choose a location, city or on a busy street, that's going to fit their customers, their clientele. I think I agree. I think the word always and the word never, those are words that you shouldn't throw around. I agree with my fellow candidates.
How will you come up with your position?
First, I'd ask for input from all of you. I think that's of primary importance. So this is kind of related to how I was going to answer the last question, but let's think about it. We have 4 square miles in our city, slightly under that, right? We better be really careful about what we do in those 4 square miles. And how am I to know what you want? I mean, you can guess at what all of our views are. You probably have a pretty good idea, but we don't know for sure what you want, right? It's not about me, it's me asking you, what is it that you want? And, you know, I won't get input from everybody, but you get a pretty good idea of what people want and what they don't want. So I think that's the process. And when a business comes in, you know, you have to be really careful about balancing property rights of the owners against what it is that our citizens want. So you have to shape our future. We're going to come up with a new master plan. Hopefully you'll become involved in that.
Given how Grand Blanc is currently laid out, do you think we're actually in a position to really grow in the right way? I mean, given how Saginaw is and how busy it is and issues people have sometimes just making a left turn, where we kind of see the city center being, but yet where the main avenues are, do you think we're really laid out, or do we need to revisit the master plan and possibly make other changes to the city to make things work instead of just, wedging things into place?
It relates to the master plan, and I think, you know, the city is intending to revise the master plan, and that's where we need to have some citizen input, because, yeah, there have been some developments that definitely have been wedged in, and you know, I know that there's been a lot of dissatisfaction with that. And then there are also traffic patterns and, you know, problems with potential crime issues. All of that has to be addressed, infrastructure, all of that has to be taken into account.
We are in a tough spot because we have no way to grow. The only way we can grow is by increasing the values of the homes. If we can keep the rates low, we can't do anything about the value of your home or business, but if we can keep the rates low, nobody likes to pay taxes. But if you say, okay, we're paying more taxes because our home went from 100 to 150, okay, that's different than the city council or the county or the state or the federal government coming in and saying your rate's now 12% instead of 10%. So I found that this unfriendly atmosphere downtown at City Hall about business it's not very good. It's not very good. And I think we need to, not that business is going to be the answer, but if you have a strong business community and you have people coming into town from outside the town, that's money, that's new money.
I think in terms of traffic patterns, I think that ship is not for sale. I mean, I don't know if anyone would seriously advocate saying knocking down Saginaw Street from 4 lanes to 2. I think that would be a total disaster. And I'd be opposed to that. I think you'd have to be gridlocked all the way from Flint to get to Grand Blanc. But I think there's a lot of low-hanging fruit in terms of developing the downtown. There's a lot of vacant lots on Saginaw Street, down Grand Blanc Road. I mean, my God, there's an entire vacant street off of Grand Blanc Road to Grand Blanc. I mean, that's just asking for something to go in there. So in terms of development, I think there's just a lot of low-hanging fruit that should be utilized, where we don't really have to wedge things in. The Grand Blanc Boulevard has a lot of room.
It's a cruise ship. You can't turn a cruise ship on a dime. And when I've been looking at all the issues that have come up over the past couple of months and why I'm frustrated, I wasn't frustrated about a business coming in and trying to develop a 14-unit apartment complex on a piece of property. I was frustrated because it didn't match the master plan. And I was frustrated because the city council made decisions around that master plan which felt like it was for another reason other than just bringing more business in. I wasn't angry with them. I decided to get in the ship with them and start and get involved. My frustration, though, is that we have a master plan. If it's being changed, that means it isn't meeting our community today. So over the next 4 years, I fully expect that one of us or a couple of us will be sitting with the other council members to update the master plan. But my challenge is a reverse challenge to you guys. How many of you actually have been out to the website and read the master plan? Can I ask a show of hands? No. How many of you actually been in the township of Grand Blanc and read the township's master plan? How many of you guys know that they're talking about redoing Dort Highway so it goes all the way down to Baldwin Road? Or that it's a technology corridor? It's those kinds of things. You're going to be angry at us, just like you're angry at the council today, for things that we do, unless you're reading along with the council as these things are put in place. So master plan's the way to go, but we have to plan and we have to stick to it. And I think it's the stick to it that we're kind of frustrated with today. And in defense of Mr. Friel and the rest of the council, they're working with what they have and what we've told them. So it's our job to communicate better.
We know there was a ballot proposal passed last year dealing with medical marijuana. Now, in February, the city passed a 6-month moratorium on authorizing or permitting transactions under the act to allow the city to catch up and get some zoning recommendations and legal advice. I want you to be careful. This is not a question about medical marijuana. As a council member, when will you put the brakes on, and when will you have to suck it up and really dive into an issue that you don't know a whole lot about?
I just did that with the water plant. I'd never seen it until Paul Brake handed it to me this last week. And I spent hours digging into it trying to figure out what it means. I would do the same thing with this, although I have strong opinions on it, and I won't tell you my opinions, but I have strong opinions on medical marijuana. But coming into my city, is that bringing the social type of business that we want in our city? Is that a walkable downtown, or is that a sit down on a couch and chill out kind of downtown? I want a walkable downtown. I'm sorry.
Well, we'll get to a walkable downtown later.
But I dive into everything, and I have 3.5 pages on the water plan that you can go read to see what kind of homework I do.
Medical marijuana, I too have my very strong opinions about that. But I think the best thing sometimes is not to do anything. Sometimes it's to delay it and let it sit for a while so people can make up their mind. You can get public comment on it through all the different ways, and that's the best course.
When you have a major issue like medical marijuana, you kind of have to jump in and see what's going on. You just start with the law and see how the law relates to you. I would suppose that lots of people probably wouldn't be so crazy having a medical marijuana shop in Grand Blanc. But the question would be, like, could you really keep one out? The answer might be no. If it's a commercially zoned lot and medical marijuana is a commercial building, you might just be stuck with it. So I think the first step is just to kind of see how much wiggle room do you have in the law. Are your hands tied, where you just have to stand back and say, well, there's not much we can do? Or is there something that you can actually do to be proactive about it? With that said, as an economic standpoint, I would be shocked if a medical marijuana shop ever opened up in Grand Blanc. It seems like that market's pretty saturated in Genesee County. Not from personal experience, but just from driving to work every day.
I really think that if it's a big issue like that, it's time to have the town hall meeting. I mean, I know what I think, but what I think might not be what all of you think. And I really believe that some council members recently ran into that dilemma. They thought they knew, but they realized they didn't. And I think we've learned that now. So, no, if there's something I don't know about, between economics and law, I think I've learned that, you really got to look into it. And in this case, it's public policy. You have to figure out what the public wants before you make any decisions.
This past year, there was an instance where one of the city council members was frustrated because that person didn't think that one or more people on the council were prepared to discuss an issue or were ready to go forward on an issue, and they had to wait till the next meeting. How do you motivate the others if you get that perception that it's not going on? Jason?
It's my opinion that some of the topics are not getting to the council members quick enough or with enough length of time for them to investigate the situation before they're being asked to vote or form an opinion on it. That's just perception at this point right now. When things come out, I do call and check with some of the council members to see when did you receive this, what was your opportunity to read it. I do get differing answers from some of the council members, so that's something I'm interested in finding out. But in my opinion, if a new topic is brought to the council should have at least 72 or more hours. I'm a slow reader, so it takes me a little more time, but some extra time to read through it and digest it, to ask questions, to potentially have a town hall depending on the severity of the issue. And that unless something is critical and needs to be passed right away, why can't you table it or offer an next? Right now we're in 2-week cycles. It only waits 2 weeks. 2 weeks is not a mountain of time for something to be done right.
I think a good leadership comes from a number of different areas. I think setting an example to me has always been the number one thing. I think I think you show people your leadership by taking care of the small things. So when something big happens, they'll be much more likely to trust your decision making. To motivate people, they have to believe in what they're doing. And I think that's very important. You have to have a belief in what you're doing. Of course, a paycheck is a wonderful thing too, and that always helps. But that's how you motivate people. I wish that we could have more people attend the city council meetings so we could, get them motivated too. That's a big question. That's going to be very hard to do.
Show of hands to the candidates. Do you think that a walkable downtown is still a desirable goal?
My family and I, we walk to, Physicians Park is spectacular. We love Physicians Park. We've got a 4-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 12-year-old, and we go to the parks all the time. We go to Little Joe's. Julie Abbott has a spectacular paint studio that if you're not aware of, you can actually rent out for birthday parties, take kids in and paint right next to Little Joe's. I just walked through the 7 Loaves that was just put in. Awesome little place, but if you sit and talk to the people that own that, the story behind that store is spectacular. I mean, it'll bring a tear to your eye, what they're doing, what they take to other countries, and what they're actually promoting. You know, Jimmy John's has been getting a little more of my business because I've been busy, but right in that just small little area defines a few things. I love Ziggy's. I love a hot dog at the hot dog stand. I love those kinds of things. So those are some examples.
You have the you have the good fortune of living in Indian Hills, and it's not a far walk. But if you live in Kirkreach or Kings Point, where do you park? Where do you park? And if you have a lot of people, a few cars are one thing. You're going to have a real parking problem. Like in Kirkreach, we don't even have sidewalks.
Let's talk about what you see as a walkable downtown. What's your idea of a walkable downtown, and how do you get there from here? Chris?
Yeah, I'm not really sure what's meant by a walkable downtown because it's fairly easy to walk downtown. There are sidewalks and crosswalks and things like that. I guess like bike paths would be nice. More sidewalks would be nice. Although it's probably not feasible to put them in all the subdivisions that don't have them. I don't have sidewalks either. So I'm all in favor of making it easier to walk downtown, although I'm not sure how difficult it is to do right now. But I'm not in favor of doing anything that would disrupt traffic flow. So that's the #1 priority. But if you can make it more walkable without screwing up the traffic and it's not that expensive, then sure.
Well, one of the things that I hope you become involved in, recently at the city council meetings, they've been talking about the plaza that's going to be around the Citgo development between those two locations there. They're designing that. The city council right now is making decisions on how that will be designed. So those of you who live in Indian Hill, that's kind of a nice walk from where you are down to that little plaza. That's walkable. It's kind of hard to walk around downtown. I think, you know, when our kids were younger, I felt like it was a little dangerous to get across Saginaw Street. I really never felt safe just letting them walk around downtown. So I don't know how you address that issue, but unless you're in Indian Hill just going to that plaza where Citgo was, being walkable is a little bit difficult.
Well, my town that has been good. If I walk downtown, I go from one hot dog stand to one hamburger stand to another.
Right.
And now we've got the auto parts. How often am I going to go in and look around at auto parts?
Right, oil change.
And then I go down a little further, there's another auto part. You know, why wasn't this balanced out?
Right.
What businesses we in?
And I hope we can do that now with the new developments that come in. I hope there's some creativity and imagination going on. I agree.
I've lived in Grand Blanc a number of years, and I'm not sure I can identify what the downtown is. I mean, in other communities that have been developed, you know where the Fenton downtown is, you know where the Lincoln downtown is, you know what the Holly downtown is. But I'm not sure that Grand Blanc's was that defined. We're too spread out.
What you guys know is that there's a really cool drawing in the council room when you go sit in city council meetings that shows the plan from start to finish of the street. And so I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with this, but right down Larry by your business and coming straight down in front of City Hall and the museum and things, that's the design. And I think it's a great design. It looks great. It's got benches, it's got trees, street lights, they look awesome. The end cap of that, which we're talking about right now when the Citgo development gets done, is going to be a showpiece of that end street. The other back side of that, on the other side of Blessing, Heating, Cooling, and that whole Grand Boulevard Street was supposed to be built up, I believe, and Mr. Friel, you have to keep me honest on this, but I believe in 2008, when businesses were booming, that was going to explode. There were a lot of deals and a lot of potentials, but it all fell apart with the economy. So we need to go back and get that back on track. And I can't answer your question today because for you, I might love looking at carburetors and want another auto door, but we have to get a good balance of them. We have to get a good balance of businesses, and there are too many burger choices. But I'll be honest with you, I would have voted for Culver's. Culver's I'd never had before. I went to Chicago, had something. It was great. It was a sit-down family restaurant. It wasn't a drive-by burger. But we need some other choices. And if you haven't tried 7 Loaves, go take a look at it. It is so cool to sit in and talk to them. So.
Downtown, you mentioned Indian Hill quite a bit, but the city goes a lot farther than that. And do you think that attention is too unfairly focused on the downtown area? And what are some of the things that you want to achieve for the outer edges of the city of Grand Blanc?
Really, the important thing is to keep the crime rate low, to have a police presence. Like, I'll be out working I work in my yard a lot. It's a good way to burn off some energy. And I see that police officers drive by probably 2-3 times a day. Just to have that relationship, he always waves, I wave back. I think that's the most important thing, to really have a low crime rate where people could be free to walk up and down their streets. Up and down my street, people are walking their dog with their kids. So I think that's what I really want to focus on for the neighborhoods. Just keep the crime rate low.
When I went back beyond the Senior Citizen Center, which I've been there a couple times in both years past, I went back to do Pagel's Drive and Pagel's Court. There's just a high number of senior citizens. I was shocked. There are no streetlights. There are just a few sidewalks. At the very back of it is the township. They have streetlights. They have sidewalks. And we don't. The city doesn't. I was kind of embarrassed. And I think, I noticed being now in the city, we were always in Kirkby. Now I'm in the city. And I see a number of times that the street sweeper goes up and down Davis and High Street and Grand Blanc Road, doesn't come to Kirkby. Doesn't come. I see speed enforcement on Grand Blanc Road, and they're stopping them left and right. They're going 10 over, they're getting a ticket. But to me, or speeding is wrong, speeding is dangerous, but going 10 over up and down my street in front of my house, where there are no sidewalks, where the kids are playing in the street, walking in the street, riding, that's where we need to have the speed enforcement, or some speed enforcement. And I think the same is true of a lot of subdivisions. Out in front, I think the city should have a master streetlight plan. We still don't have streetlights down at that end of the city. They go all the way to Mr. Sarah's place and all the way to the plant, but they don't go this way. So I think the subdivisions need a lot more attention. And I think, I'm concerned about you say making Grand Blanc the city, the downtown area more walkable. I am scared that the traffic is moving too fast and the sidewalks are too close to the street. And you can just, if you've had a bunch of little ones, a tragedy is just that far away. And I don't know how you're going to change that because it's built now. Some places are older, they may move back, but I don't think you can do what some people want to do.
What vision do you have for the city of Grand Blanc?
For me, the first vision is communication. I don't have all the answers. I ask my wife for a lot of the answers. And, you know, we need to know what the rest of you want. I don't know what kind of businesses you're interested in, but I'm interested to find out what you're interested in, because I know when we walk downtown, usually it's grab a Starbucks, hot chocolate for me, because I don't drink coffee. You know, maybe sometimes go get an ice cream if we can, but now we have an anaphylactic child that's allergic to peanuts. We have to pick and choose where we go. Grafted Roots coming in, you know, that's a nice business. It's something we may be able to go and sit down and have a meal at, and it's those kinds of businesses that are interesting to my family. I would like to see more social things. I don't want a bar in downtown, but some sort of place that you can go sit outside, like Little Joe's did, something additional to that. Little Joe's did great. I'd like to see more. I don't know what Mr. Jonah is going to be putting into his 2 developments or what the Marathon crew is going to be putting into theirs, but there's 4 developments there that are ready for businesses. I'm really interested and excited to see what can come, and I don't want to be disappointed, but so it's a tough question.
Well, I think Jason and I are very similar in that idea that just really, we want to know what it is that you want. But, you know, what I do hear a lot is, why are we driving to Oakland County to do things? Why do we have to drive to Oakland County or Ann Arbor to buy groceries and clothes and all that kind of stuff? I know we can't accommodate all those things, but could we have some of it here? We've got a Farmer Jack store that's sitting there empty. That's a huge piece of property. And you know, when I ask about it, it's being rented out by Sears. Sears is renting it out. Well, from whom? Well, somebody out east. You know, I don't know who it is. But could we work on that? I don't know. Maybe it has been dealt with. But we have room to grow, but grow in the right way. We shouldn't have to go to Fenton or, you know, Oakland County to get what we want. We should be able to do it right here. And the other thing is, we need to get all these groups in the city working together. We need the City Council, the administration, DDA, Parks and Rec, Chamber of Commerce. We need to get them together so we have that sense of community that they have in Fenton, they have in Holly, that somehow we just don't have here, even though we have the talent and the capability to do it.
I'm going to turn the tables right now, and I want to give the candidates a chance to ask a question to the crowd.
How do you folks feel about the carnival? The appearance of it, the loss of business, the parking, the people that it attracts?
I'm a little mixed during the day. It's kind of nice to see families out, have a good time. At night, I go out and walk a lot at night, like 9, 10 o'clock at night. During Carnival Week, feel a little funny walking around that place. You know, it just, the people it draws in. I mean, I think we have to be careful with some of the festivals. Yeah, it's nice to bring, you know, from the economic standpoint, what kind of undesirable element are we going to draw to?
And at nighttime, when our two daughters are there together, that's
Exactly.
not what you're talking about, right?
Someone somewhere is making money because they keep having. So
If you could bring one business to Grand Blanc, what would it be?
Menards.
But it wouldn't fit where we're at. Let's try show of hands on this one. We've had a couple of shout out already. How many would like to see a Menards around here?
Maybe not in the city, but
Okay. How many would like to see a Whole Foods? What did I miss? There was another one being shown.
Trader Joe's.
Trader Joe's. Sounds like a lot of people.
So over the past couple of months, I've decided with my wife on how we were going to run our campaign. We spent our own personal money. Didn't take any campaign contributions, didn't raise any money. Thankfully, I did accept some money from my parents to help pay for a few signs, just because I didn't realize how expensive they were. But do the signs mean anything to you guys? Do they help you guys in your decision making? Or what's more important to you when it comes to deciding how a candidate is chosen?
It's good to have them out there because people get to recognize your name. The downside of it is if someone plasters their name around because they have a lot of money, they look at that and they might vote for you, when in reality they don't know anything about you. So I like to investigate and see what you guys,
Mr. Frill, do you have a problem answering that question? You're on the other side of the fence. You've placed a few signs here.
I have never placed a sign. I've never purchased a sign as in my 10 years at council. I believe that the issues you present are the utmost important, and if people are looking to vote for other people to fill those positions, I think they should do their homework, make sure that the people that you're voting for fit your personality and what you want to see in the city council.
What do you think about signs?
I actually think that was a really good question. I appreciate you asking it. Had to think for a minute about how I'd answer it. A lot depends. You know, whose yards do I see them in, and what do I think of those people? Less maybe about quantity, but I will say this. I appreciate this kind of a forum more than any other. Not having been to one before, I feel that I'm much more educated on the four candidates that are sitting in front of us tonight than I ever have been ever in 8 years in the city?
Okay, let's get back to the questions. Jason, you want to go?
Oh, that
was your signs. Chris, got a question for the crowd?
Sure. Just to get back to the businesses, it's always great to say, what would we like to have in Grand Blanc? You know, I would like a Whole Foods. If it was up to me, there'd be a Cheesecake Factory, a P.F. Chang's, a California Pizza Kitchen, right in a row. And I just kind of go down the road, circle back. But the sad fact is the city council doesn't get to decide which businesses get to be put in place. What we can do is kind of lay the groundwork to say, well, we have some land, going through the permitting process is easy. If you have your act together, we'll make sure the road is smooth for you. But in terms of me sitting here promising, say, a P.F. Chang's, although I would love to do it, that's a promise I can't deliver. So I just wanted to get that out there. For a question for you, I guess I've always been curious about the farmer's market. There's been some discussion about, well, we have a temporary farmer's market. Should we have a permanent farmer's market? That would require the outlay of some resources. Well, what do you think?
Chose to keep the farmer's market permanently, would we be getting rid of the master plan and choosing it?
Well, let's do it this way. I mean, you're here, you're the voter. You're going to vote for somebody to do something. What message would you send through them to the rest of the city council. What would you like to see?
I want the master plan down or some input.
Well, what if a permanent structure for a farmer's market is not in the master plan? Is that something you find desirable, that maybe we tweak the master plan as you do a master plan amendment? Anything is possible.
I would show
These
up.
people want to know.
I would show up to discuss that. I mean, I would show up at the meeting to discuss what tweaking needs to be done and whether or not we should have a farmer's market in the master plan.
Okay. Well, go
Well, I
ahead.
like the current setup of the farmer's market, whether it's on that street or the high school parking lot or the physician's park. It's an event we have. We can draw people in. It doesn't cost us any money, really.
I noticed on the street that they have it on, that there's not a lot of parking. You can't, you'd almost be better off to have a permanent with its own park, than a building, maybe could be used for other events, other things.
Okay. We have, we'll get there. Let's address some questions that got turned in from the crowd. Each of you has lived in Grand Blanc for a number of years. In the past, there have been unsuccessful efforts to consolidate city and township governments and merging different departments. Although this person doesn't believe that we have a current issue about merging departments or forces, there's always the possibility that it will it's going to surface in the future. What do you think about consolidation? Is that something we should actively look for? We have a very close-by player in Grand Blanc Township that has a little different population, a little different interests. Where should we go with that, Larry?
I don't think we should push it. As I recall, the big objection from the city point of view was that the township had a lot of debt and they didn't want to take that on. I think that, we right now the schools are together. I think the police being together, although it's kind of nice because the township police have to drive through the city to get to the other side of the township. But it is very confusing. Some good friends of ours have a house on Francesca, and one of them votes in the city and one of them votes in the township, and the line runs right through the middle of the house. But the city is landlocked, and as things continue to go up in price over the years, 10, 20, there's no way that we can keep paying and raise our salaries and pay the police and everybody as we go up. We need more space, we need more development. And the only way to get it, the township has plenty of empty land. And on the question of having some other stores, you've got to remember, tell me where you would build a nice lady store, like a Target or a Jacobson's type of store, or a TJ, whatever you have in mind. The only place you really have is the old Farmer Jack store, and that's under the control of Sears. So somebody of a good size is not going to come in here. You're limited only to little smaller stores like our store or other stores like that.
There is that corner lot where there used to be a 7-Eleven. There is an abandoned apartment complex. If the city doesn't move in and decide that would be a great addition for the park, which in my opinion it would be, there are, there's this really great property on Reed Road where they're going to put in 108 apartment buildings. It would make a great spot for commercial business.
Let me play with this. Everybody here has been shouting out different stores they want to see, everything else. Mr. Friel is cringing because he's going to go where I'm going right now. It's easy to say we want, we'd like to get. And sometimes you can do it, sometimes you can't do it. How are you going to deal with the expectations? I mean, to bring in a store and get them to locate, they're going to be investing in the community. In this tight economy, how as council people are you going to manage that? And if it's not so easy to do, how are you going to face the public who's not real happy when they don't see enough coming in or the types of things they want coming in?
Well, I think we can try. I'm not sure, you know better than I do, how much has been done to try and get somebody to go on that Farmer Jack property. It's a large piece of land. And to say that it's being rented by Sears with a 1 or 2 year lease remaining, I mean, I don't think that's necessarily saying it can't be done. I don't know. I won't know until I get there, but I do think that our current city manager is trying to actively bring in businesses. And no, I can't promise anything, but what I can say is if enough people in Grand Blanc want a Whole Foods, and if they go to Whole Foods and say, hey, have you ever thought of locating here, why not give it a try? Instead of saying, oh, there's a lease for another 2 years, you know? And we have a lot of small opportunities in downtown Grand Blanc. They don't have to be large women's stores. They can be boutiques.
Boutiques.
Why not do that? Why not? And talk about a walkable downtown. Why not a crepe company and, you know, an organic food place and, you know, maybe another small restaurant? Why can't we bring those things in? That makes a walkable downtown.
Like I said, the city can't build a business from the ground up. That's not the role for the city. The role for the city is to say, well, the permitting process is easy, the land development process is easy. If you have all your facts together, if you have everything together, we'll make it easy for you to move forward. So I think that's really the role of City Council, kind of lay the groundwork for businesses to come in. But in terms of could I go out and get out of a chocolate shop to locate, I can raise the issue with them, but I can't build it from the ground up.
I've been on the council for the past 4 years, and no offense to Mr. Field, I haven't done my job. Because part of doing our job, if I'm going to go to a Whole Foods or a Trader Joe's, I want to find out their business plan and find out why they would want to commute, why they would want to be in Grand Blanc. And part of the reason that they're not in Grand Blanc could be maybe they don't want to be so close to a Walmart. I'll pick on the Walmart. What that means is a decision outside of the city council's control. We let our township do something to this piece of property that could be affecting our city. We have to look into that. So I would want to find out more about that business. I would also want to go to Sears and talk to them directly, find out who owns the lease and controls that, and find out why they think they need to do that. Because their answer could be, it brings more business into one of our lowest cost stores. The cost of running that Kmart in Grand Blanc is astronomically low, because we don't do anything nice to it. People still come. Why do we do that? Maybe we need to pick at Kmart and help them make that decision to stop leasing it. But the flip side is, stop making decisions to bring in businesses into our community or apartment complexes that lower the value of how people perceive this city, and the businesses see that and don't want to come here. So it's a multi-part question or answer. So.
Right.
If elected, what committees would you like to serve on?
DPW.
Why is that?
I'm kind of a handyman. I'm really interested in that, and I love to work in the yard. I do a lot of work around the house, and I think that's where my strongest suit would be. There's a couple of people now that are on the finance committee. I think they're doing a good job, and I think Chris and Paula have really dynamic economic background. But I'm more of a hands-on, see the job, get it done kind of guy. I think that's where I like.
I would want to be on the planning commission, but I'll probably get stuck on finance. I mean, I'll probably have the...
Is that something that the public has input on?
Susan is our mayor, gets to choose. She will assign us, I believe, three assignments, right?
That's not the way I understand it. She makes the choice now because the city council is divided. And I think if the city council can overrule and ask. Mr. Creel, can you comment on that?
Well, let's not make it
Okay,
a question answer on what we have. Trying to figure out where your interests lie and where you want to go, and you like planning.
Well, I'm planning because I think it has the biggest drive on our city and our direction and where my heart lies today. I've been talking to Matt Friel and Matt Wertz from DPW, and I love what he does, and I love all the stuff he goes through. I talk to him quite a bit. I think it'd be interesting, but I don't want to be sitting on a commission I'm interested in. I want to sit on one where I can bring value, and there's lots of choices, so I'd go plan for it.
I want to be wherever it's decided I should be, because I think I'm well qualified for any of the committees. I could be on the finance committee, the legal legislative committee, the personnel committee. I'm really happy to serve on any one of those committees. What I would like to do is be put on a committee where there seems to be a little bit of balance, because I consider myself kind of in between on a lot of issues and willing to listen to both sides. So I'm not going in there with necessarily my own agenda. I'm going in there with an open mind. So I'm happy to take whatever I can get.
Mary was right. I would like to serve on the finance committee. I'm a numbers guy, and it seems like my background would lend well to the expertise required for the finance committee. So Jason, if we both get elected, you get the Susan sticks you on finance and me on planning, I'll just trade.
So
So I was going to address the consolidation issue, just to say I'm against it. For a couple reasons. One, I don't think the city should dilute its political influence. The city has about 8,000 residents. It's easy to get a hold of me if I was elected to city council. I live in Riverbend West. If you're playing golf, you can stop at the second hole and yell at me when I'm mowing the yard. I'll turn the lawnmower off and listen to you. But if we would merge with the township, all of a sudden 8,000 people turns into 50,000 people. It would be much harder to get a hold of an elected official. And I think that's the real danger of a larger community like a merged city township, is that the number of board members are the same, but it's harder to interact with the board members. It's harder to run for election just because you're dealing with so many more people. And I don't really see where the savings is. Like, yeah, maybe we lose a police chief, but I'm guessing we would need an assistant police chief now. Do we remove the number of cops on the street? Probably not. So I just don't see where the savings is, and I see the loss of political influence. So to me, it's a non-starter.
If you can tell me what your favorite thing is about Grand Blanc, why did you here and why you stayed here?
I was raised in Burton and moved here after I retired from the middle schools. I love it as more or less a bedroom community. I don't want a big box store next to me or a half mile from me where I'm having to deal with the traffic. We've got enough of our own. But things that, like the smaller stores that I can go to for individual things. We need a grocery store, which we've got, and traffic is bad there too. But if I want to go to the mall, I have no problem driving to one of the other malls and letting somebody else handle the policing and all of that stuff. The community is what I like about it.
I would like to say that I think that this gentleman is right there. You know, the city, any great city, even though it's small, is made up of good public safety, good schools, and good finance, a solid financial base. That people have to feel that they're getting their money. It breaks my heart. I'm born and raised in Florida. My wife was born and raised in Detroit. And every day you see what's going on. And somewhat it was, some things were beyond their control, but they were their own worst enemy too. They just kept thinking that the money was going to keep coming in. And that's why I talked about the consolidation. I think it's way out there, but I'm afraid that the political pressure for Grand Blanc and the city and the township someday will probably come together so they are a political force in Lansing and maybe even in Washington. And on the signs, I understand how you feel, but let me assure you of this. One, we bought the minimum number of signs, 25, okay? And I bought the minimum number of small signs, 50. So I will say that you've seen a lot of signs. I will say that we've done an excellent job of marketing and placing our signs. But we did buy the minimum. If you don't, the price is just unbelievable.
Well, I want to ask a question of the candidate sitting up here, but answer first. So my question is, out of the four of us that are here, where do you see yourselves in 4 years as far as this position goes? For my answer, raising my family, staying in Grand Blanc, and continuing to run on city council. Because every time my dad calls me, he always says Senator Poyer. I think he's got grander plans for me. But my job is to take care of the city, take care of my family, and get my kids through college, and unfortunately next year, potentially braces. So I'm here. I'm here to stay. I'm not going anywhere. I can't afford to sell my house. I can't afford to go anywhere. My retirement's in my house. My retirement's where it is. And I need to make sure that my city supports my family. My city supports the community. And I'm here to stay. I'm not going to be running for any additional offices after this. So hopefully if I get elected this round, I'll be here for another round in 4 years because I've helped.
I have no plans of moving either our business or our residents. And I hope to God that 4 years from now my health is such and people, if I get elected and the people agree, I may run again. But that's, this is not a springboard so I can be governor.
Anyone else?
I'll answer.
Go ahead.
So in 4 years, that's a yes. So hopefully I make it, but if not, I'll be maybe investing in science, depending on how that pays out. No, I'm in this for the long haul. I have no political ambitions. I'm really here just to serve the city, and I waited until the kids got older so I'd have time to do it. And I'm in Grand Blanc until I
today's job, economics professor. Sometimes people say, you're a fairly young guy, so we're fairly. Are you using this for a springboard? The answer is no. Right? My job's fun. I think being an elected official in Lansing or on the county commission, that would be not very much fun. So just for purely selfish reasons, no, it's not a springboard. I don't want to give up my job that I have going on right now, and hopefully in 4 years I'll be able to run again for re-election assuming I get elected in the first place.
This has been fun. I really want to appreciate everybody. Thank you so much for showing up. These people have put their names out there on the ballot. They're going to take these slings and arrows and they're willing to do it for our community. They showed up tonight, they answered questions, they're going to answer more questions and mingle with you now. But please, let's, ground rules are off, let's give them a good applause. Thank you, everybody. There's time left. Mingle with the candidates, ask them the questions, do the follow-up questions, talk to each other. Hopefully, this will be online. Town's going to try and do some editing, and first attempt will be to put it on Nextdoor, so other people will be able to see it as well. Thank you very much.